What's up, nerds? I'm Wes with Neverboard Gaming, and today we're talking about the expansion that brings new life to Sagrada. So Life is the third expansion to Sagrada and the second in the Great Facades line of expansions, and it's a modular expansion that adds two new things to the game. You've got your new mastery dice, they're these orange dice down here, as well as the apprentice deck. And now it says that you can add either or into the game. Really, just add them both. Honestly, I almost want to play with the apprentice cards all the time. They give you like one-time use cards. It's either new like scoring bonuses at the end of the game or special actions that you can take once per game on your turn. I love it when games give you that asymmetric feel. They add new things that let you do things that your opponents can't do, and your opponents do things that you can't do. It's just all kinds of fun. The mastery dice are a lot of fun. I like them, but you can like add the mastery dice into the game and then go the whole game without ever using them. That's probably not like the most advantageous way to play because there are a lot of potential points here, but they are like an addition to the game that add to the game without changing it at all, because again, you don't have to use these. So let's start with the mastery dice, since we're just talking about them. So these are these orange dice that all have arrows on them. On one of your turns, you can exchange the die that you drafted with one of these orange die, and they're like specific. Like each line of die has a requirement. So like for you, it's the leftmost has a 6 or a red that you draft in exchange for one of these, which is like the 90 degree up into the side. 5 or a yellow is the 90 degree that's like on the diagonal, and so on and so forth. You don't actually get to roll these, but you do. So you draft the face that you trade for, and you get to add it to your window. Now, what these die do is the two arrows have to be pointing to either the same color or the same number. So it's pointing to a purple and a purple, or a 3 and a 3. And if you accomplish that goal, it's worth 5 points at the end of the game. Now, if you put this in your window and you don't accomplish that goal, it's actually worth -2 points. So you don't have to have the two purples in place when you draft this die and put it in your window. But if you don't, you're risking not getting the other die that you need and then getting negative points instead of positive points. It's like a 7-point swing whether or not you get it once you draft this die. So the 4 dice are pretty explanatory. It's just an arrow saying these two things have to match. The 2 die that have 4 arrows on them are a little bit different. There's one saying it's pointing up, down, left, and right. So all orthogonally adjacent die cannot be the same color or cannot be the same number. These are a little bit harder to accomplish, in my opinion, which is interesting because it almost seems like they're the cheaper die, or the die that give you less benefits, but they are there. And the reason why I think they need to exist is because these die are piece limited. So in like a 2 or 3 player game, I think you don't play with like the second set, so you only have one set of each. So there's only 6 opportunities in the entire game for anybody to get one of these dice, and you can't have multiples. I've had 3 of these dice in my window in one turn, so it can start getting really tight, and you may not be able to get one, so you're kind of stuck getting one of the less desirable dice where you have to get 4 different die on the board to coordinate. You also have to put the one with the 4 arrows into the center of your board, because any of the edge pieces, obviously it's pointing off of the board, and that doesn't matter. Like if it's pointing off the board, then you automatically cannot get that to score. The other thing that these dice add are these gem tokens. I don't know where they are, but they're how you like pay for the tools. You get more of those gems when you buy these dice, which means you're using a lot more tools in the game, which really help you modify the game, complete your window, depending on what tool you're using. And there are tools in this expansion that pertain specifically to these orange dice. And like one of them lets you change the face of the die, which is really useful because you may need to draft a die and then change it, which any of these right for, because you get 2 of these tokens for buying this die, you can automatically pay for that tool if it's in play to make it whatever you want. Love these dice. Really enjoyed how they changed the strategy of the game. Again, you can ignore them completely. You don't ever have to draft these, but if you're able to draft them and you're able to like set up your window to get one of these and make it score points, you feel really accomplished. And again, if you can get 3 of them, that's 15 points. If of course their objective is met. The other thing this expansion adds is these Apprentice Cards. And again, these are like one-time use. On your turn, you choose to either activate or discard, depending on what the card says. Like some cards say activate, some cards say discard. And that's basically just how you trigger it. So activate are going to be something that you play and you keep in front of you, and it's probably like an end game scoring thing. So it's a reminder of that thing during the game. Whereas discard is you discard it from the game and you take whatever action is on it. So like this one is discard to gain 2 more favor tokens. That's what these are, favor tokens. This one is discard, swap any 2 dice in your window. You still must obey placement restrictions. So that'll kind of help you potentially get this orange or get some of the other end of game scoring. There's a big deck of cards here that all just change the game, give you special perks, you special abilities that other people don't have. The way you get these cards is the game comes with new window panes. And these panes have this interesting little like circle wheel symbol on them that matches the Apprentice cards. And whenever you cover up one of these symbols with any die, then you get to draw 2 cards from the deck, choose one to keep and the other to discard. Or if you want to, you can just take the top card off the discard pile. That's probably one of the negatives, and there's like a good number of these included, and there's also one in each of these windows that's out on the board. But if you're going to be playing with the Apprentice cards, you're really limited to you have to use these, because if somebody doesn't get one of the new windows from the expansion, they don't have the ability to get any Apprentice cards, and that's just too much of a negative. Everyone has to use one of these. So if you're a collector, you've been collecting a lot of like promos from the games in the past, you can't use any of those anymore in this expansion. And I don't really know a good solution to that other than to like include stickers and you can stick them on it like whatever cards you want. I don't get too stuck on the window panes. It's not like, oh, I have to use the Man vs. Meeple promo every time I play. But it would be nice if there was a way to kind of grandfather those into the expansion. You also get new public objectives, and most of them have to do with the orange die, although not all of them do. Like you honestly could play with, like, just add some of these into the base game. Some of them are orange specific, like there's like the orange adjacency score. But a lot of the other ones don't actually have to do with the orange die. They can be one with the orange die, but a lot of these just add them into your game like normal, whether or not you're playing with this expansion or not. Overall, I really enjoyed the Life expansion. I really liked like having new dice, new things to think about, new ways to score. This was my first game I actually completed my entire window. I'm actually not super good at Sagrada, so typically I have like one spot left that I get locked out of. But with the new Apprentice cards, it gives you a lot more opportunities to like move dice around, to use a lot more tools. Or I guess the tools is with the mastery dice. But both of the things in this expansion give you more opportunities to manipulate the board, make it a little bit easier to fill the board out. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it added a new level of enjoyment to the game, and it's the kind of thing that like if this is too much for you to think about, you can ignore it and you can just go for the public objectives, because a lot of the public objectives like you can't complete with the orange dice because they have to do with like having a specific number on the board, or having, you know, the ones that's like your area, the private objectives where it's the area around or the area of this specific sector. Orange dice count as a 0 when you're adding up things, so that can take away from the public or private objective, but you still get the points for the orange dice. If you're a fan of Sagrada, I highly, highly recommend you pick up the Life expansion. It doesn't like drastically change the game, but it does add just enough that I think that it will elevate your game. You'll really enjoy it. I mean, I just pick up everything for this game. It's Floodgates. Easily, it's their best game ever. It's just an incredible game. You should pick it up, and you should also pick up one of these awesome game toppers. Elevate your gaming experience. Either way, make sure you subscribe to our channel so you'll never be bored.